Today on StockCharts In Focus, we're walking through the chart setting sections of both SharpCharts, our original legacy tool, and ACP, our new advanced interactive charting platform. There's a ton here for some of the fundamental options for how you set up your charts in both platforms. So we want to take a look at how to set up those charts, what the different options that you have are. Make sure that you're aware of everything you can do with the chart setting sections on both SharpCharts and ACP. So you know what it is, it's all new, it's all here, it's StockCharts In Focus. So welcome to the show, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me here on StockCharts In Focus, another episode of our product focus show on StockCharts TV. We really get to dive into the site, dig into the features, show you around the tools and the features to make sure that you are getting the most value out of StockCharts that you possibly can. Especially on an episode like today, where we get to really dig into some of the core options and aspects of our different charting tools. Now, there is so much on StockCharts, so many different tips and tricks and shortcuts that we can show you. Today, specifically, we're going to dig into the chart settings sections. That's for SharpCharts and for ACP. So I think this is really going to help you get more out of those chart setting sections. Make sure that you're setting up your charts in exactly the way that you want to do it. We're going to show you around everything that you have available to you for both platforms. So let's get right to it. We're going to start here on the SharpCharts workbench. SharpCharts, of course, our legacy tool, the one that we are most known for. So here on the SharpCharts workbench, we're going to look at the chart attributes section. Now, when we say the SharpCharts workbench, what we really are referencing is all of these different menus down below your chart. This is sort of what collectively we refer to as the SharpCharts workbench. You can see that it's sort of broken up into 4 sections. We've got chart attributes, overlays for things that are going to go on the price panel, indicators for things that are going to go generally above and below the price panel, and then a chart list section as well. The one that we're going to zero in on today, though, is the chart attributes section. Pretty standard stuff with these first couple of menus. You can choose your chart period, obviously daily, weekly, monthly, any intraday periods that you want, like 2-hour bars, 15-minute bars, down to 1-minute bars. All those different period options. Same thing with the range here. So you have different predefined ranges if you want to pull up, let's say, a 5-day chart, maybe a 6-month chart, a 2-year chart, all the way out to a 100-year chart if you're a pro member. You also have a select start and end date option, which is going to allow you to really zero in on a specific date range. You can do that. And then a year-to-date option at the bottom as well. Now, one other one that we do have is the fill the chart option, which is basically going to take whatever width you set for the chart and fill that in with a number of bars that makes sense. It's sort of going to optimize the look of your chart. So fill the chart is another one that a lot of people use. Personally, I like to set specific ranges for my charts so that I always know exactly how much time I'm looking at. Now, right next to that, you do have a couple of other date menus. So when you want to select a specific number of years, for instance, that's what I've done on this chart. I've selected 2 years there. You also have months and days, so you can zero in on a specific time period right there using these menus. That's another way to change the range of your chart. Now, extra bars is an important one here. So if I go ahead and type in, let's say 30 extra bars and I hit enter, you'll notice that on the right side of the chart now I've added the equivalent of 30 extra bars to the right side of the chart. So this is a way to add sort of extra white space to your chart. This is great if you're drawing trend lines, for instance, and you want to extend those out sort of into the future. Maybe you're looking at price targets. You want to actually put some notes on your charts. We see a lot of people actually create extra white space on the right side of their chart, and then they fill that in with different annotations, different notes, maybe targets, things like that. So a lot of different uses for that extra bars feature. But you can type in any number there that you want for extra bars, and we'll automatically add that extra space to the right side of your charts. Moving down below that, we've got our chart type menu. Of course, tons and tons of different chart types that you can choose from. I've got candlesticks up on the screen right now, but you've also got different bar chart types. You've got different line charts, solid and dashed, dots, area charts, histograms, tons of options to play with here. Next up is the size of the chart. Now in SharpCharts, because these are our static chart types, you can actually change the size of your chart. So I personally like to use either 1024 or 1280. I find that those are a great width for me generally when I'm on my desktop. I've got smaller chart sizes though that I've saved specifically for when I'm on my phone. If I want to look at a sharp chart on my phone, maybe I want to do something smaller like a 360 or a 460 so that it's a little more optimized to the device size. You've got a lot of different options to play with here. And as you go up the service levels, you actually get more. So we can even go out to 2,500 pixels wide. I'll put that up on the screen for just a sec. You can see now you get a huge chart. You can really zero in on all the different bars on this chart, sort of scroll around and see it. Or if you've got a really big monitor, this is a great way to sort of fill the whole screen with your sharp chart. Lots of different sizes to play with. And you can even do custom sizes. So actually, if you want to totally get crazy and customize the size of your charts, make them exactly the proportions that you want to see, you can do that here with the custom size option. Next up, we've got color schemes. Lots of color schemes to play with. You can see right now I'm using the blue-gray color scheme. That's one of my favorites. I also personally love the sunset color scheme. That's one that you've probably seen me using in the past, the sunset color scheme there, that sort of gradient background. But we've got dark themes. For instance, one of my favorite dark themes here in SharpCharts is dark blue. I find this is a really attractive one. I use this on indexes a lot as kind of my index style. But lots and lots of color schemes you can play with. And again, you do actually have some customization options. So you can actually come in here, select custom right from this menu, and customize your color schemes with all of the different colors that you want to see. So lots of options there for getting pretty wild, pretty creative with your charts. Now, you can also customize the bar colors, so up color and down color, as well as the opacity. So if you want to sort of fade out your bars, let's say you wanted to do just sort of really faded price bars, there you can see I've set the opacity down to 0.2. So now I have these very opaque price bars on the screen. They almost disappear. There's some interesting uses for this. Sometimes you want to really kind of highlight the moving averages. Maybe you have a short-term 5-period moving average or something, and you want to sort of focus on that instead of the actual price bars. Always some interesting uses for the opacity setting there, but definitely one that you can take a look at as well. Now, to the right of that, we have our grid options. So on this chart that I have up on the screen, I personally love to use our dashed grid on SharpCharts. I think it's a great view, but you also have a normal or sort of the default view, which is a little thicker, a little more well-defined lines. You can also get crazy dense if you want to sort of make that grid even more visible. You have a dense option to really get the grid going there on your charts. Now, some people, though, love to turn off the grid. In ACP, actually, I find that I like to have the grid off over in our other platform. So we have a grid option on both of our charting platforms, grid off option. So you can actually turn that grid off, get sort of a cleaner look to your charts. No extra lines there. You've just got the price bars. It is a nice clean look. So I do like this one as well. One other option that is key that I love showing people is the legends option. So you've got a couple of different legends options. Legends are these little labels for each indicator, for your overlays like your moving averages, and also for the chart itself, the ticker symbol that is on the main price chart. So legends refer to all of those little labels that you see in the top left corner for your indicator panels, your price panel, all of that. When you change it to verbose, you'll see that up here in this price relative line, we have Etsy versus VTI. VTI is the Vanguard Total Market Index. This is a price relative line that I have on most of my charts to see how is this stock or this ETF performing relative to the total US market, for instance. So you'll see that when I have this here and I've got the verbose legends turned on, instead of just getting the symbols, I actually get the full company name. So in this case, we're looking at Etsy versus the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, VTI, and I actually get that written out for me. So the verbose legends option is going to sort of expand those legends, make them a little bit more complete, add a little bit more info to them. But you've got a bunch of different options depending on what you want to see. Personally, I love to use those verbose legends. You've also got the default, which as we update this chart, you'll see that now we have Etsy : VTI. And that's going to be sort of the standard look. So a little bit less info for you. You just get the symbols there. Most of these legends, though, don't change for the indicators, the overlays, those kinds of things. You also have a minimal option, which is going to go kind of one step down. So you'll see that now we still have the price legend here in the price panel. On that price performance indicator, we also still have that legend because that's an important one to keep on there for different symbols. But for a lot of the sort of standard indicators, as well as those overlays that I had on this chart, those are actually pulled off when you set the legend setting to minimal. And then, of course, we do have a total off mode. So you can actually turn those legends completely off on your chart if you want just a super clean look. Man, you combine this with the grid off too, you're going to end up with a real clean chart there. Personally, though, I love that verbose legends option. I think that's a great one to have on your charts. So something to play around with. Now, in our final line, we've got one more menu and then a whole bunch of checkboxes to run you through. So, of course, volume is an important indicator, so important, in fact, that we actually make a separate space for it. So you can also add volume to your charts as a standalone indicator. But in SharpCharts, we actually have a menu that you can use right here in the chart attributes section. So I've set volume here as an overlay. I can also change it to be separate though. So if you see it up here, I've got volume again as an overlay. I can set that menu though to separate. And what that's going to do is break out the volume panel and put it right below the price panel. So now I've got volume broken out into its own section on the chart. Or you can turn volume clean off. If you don't want volume on your chart, some people don't like volume, you can just turn that right off and you don't have any volume bars on your chart. Again, you can also turn it off here and then add volume as a standalone indicator, which actually gives you some more customizations that you can do with the volume indicator. So you can add overlays to it, for instance, change the colors, change the style, those kinds of things. So another option there for adding volume to your charts, but just the quick go-to, easy to use one up here in the chart attributes section, you've got that volume menu. Now we'll dive into the checkboxes. A lot of important options that you can turn on or off for your charts. So let's dig into these. Personally, I love having the full quote on, especially for some of my more stock specific styles. When I'm looking at a specific stock, an individual stock, I love to keep that full quote option on. So I've got that turned on, and what that adds is this panel up at the top of the screen. It sort of expands the chart header, if you will, adds a little bit more data at the top of your chart. So you'll see you've got the open, high, low, and the previous close here on the left. You've got some bid-ask data here in the middle, which is active when the market's open. At this time, we're actually recording this when the market's closed, so we don't have that bid and ask data right now, but that is there for you when the market's open and when the stock is trading. We've got a few sort of fundamental stats and market cap and things like that, PE and earnings per share right there in the full quote, as well as a market cap line, which is great to have in there. And then finally, if this stock has a dividend, you'll get some dividend info right there. And then also our scooter value is a key one. So in this case, we're looking at Etsy, which is part of the large cap group. You can get the scooter score right there, our StockCharts technical rank. So a little bit more info for you, kind of gives you a little bit more of a high level view of this this stock in this case that you're looking at. So I love to keep the full quote on, again, specifically for my stock styles. When I'm looking at something like an index that's not going to have a lot of this info, I generally shut that full quote option off. But when I'm looking at a specific stock, I love to keep that full quote option turned on for my charts. Next up, we've got the price labels. Now, the price labels are going to add these little price labels here on the price panel itself at key sort of pivot points for the chart. So in this case, we've got at the different highs and the different lows, sort of short-term highs and short-term lows. We add those little price labels on your chart to make it really easy to see where the stock or the ETF or the index is trading. So especially for something like this sort of interim low that we saw back in 2020 in Etsy, it's really nice to have that price label on. It gives you a great sense of exactly where that stock came down to. And you don't have to do this kind of map over to the right side function. You don't have to say, okay, it must be somewhere around 29.90. You just get that price label right there. Same thing for the highs. I always love to see the price labels up on the top of the stock. So it just gives you a little more detail as you're analyzing different stocks, different funds. Those price labels add a little bit more detail to your charts. Next up is the log scale. Pretty self-explanatory there. That's going to change the y-axis scaling. So if you want logarithmic scaling on your chart, you'll see that I have that turned on. So this is going to give a little bit more of a kind of percentage view, weighting the y-axis as you go up in price a little bit differently. If you want an arithmetic scale where the difference between each price value is fixed, so it's the same scale as you go up, you can turn off log scale, and that's going to be the same as turning on an arithmetic scale. So you've got some scaling options there. I love to look at my charts in log scale because I think it gives you a little bit more of a realistic view, kind of more percentage-oriented view of any security that you're looking at. So that option is right there for you. If you're looking at candlesticks like I am on this chart, you've also got a solid candles option. That's going to fill in all your candles if you don't want the standard sort of hollow candle treatment on your candlesticks. You can actually punch that in and you'll have solid candles on your chart there. Coloring volume. Now you'll see if I turn that volume back to overlay, you'll see that the volume bars are actually different colors. I've sort of got blue and red here, depending on the price bar, depending on the candlestick. If I do color volume off, that means that the volume bars are all going to be the same color. So now, because I've turned that checkbox off, all of my volume bars are the same color. So depending on your preference there, you can turn color volume on or off. Personally, I like to keep that color volume option checked because I like a little bit more detail in the volume bars. Smooth lines are just going to sort of do exactly what they say. They're going to smooth out some of the lines on your chart. So you'll notice that a lot of these moving averages, they look pretty nice and clean, nice and smooth. When you turn off smooth lines, those look a little bit more jumpy. So I personally love to keep smooth lines on. That's just a preference one though. You can play with which one is sort of your favorite. Y-axis labels, a really important one as well. So I've got that turned on for my charts, and you'll see that over here on the y-axis, for all my indicators, all my overlays, as well as the price itself, I've got these little y-axis labels. I've got one for volume as well, and again, for all my different indicators, so RSI and accumulation, not accumulation distribution, that one actually doesn't have a label, but the scooter value, anything that's got a y-axis, we're gonna put a y-axis label on your chart for you. So again, I love to have that on my charts because specifically for having moving averages on there, I get all the moving average values right on there with the y-axis labels. You do get those values listed out in the legends as well, but I personally love to have them on the right side of the chart as well. So a nice option there to turn on with the y-axis labels. Now, next up is the zoom thumbnail. The zoom thumbnail is a fascinating tool, one that I love to use as well. We actually developed this with Decision Point. So a lot of times, let's say you're looking at, like we have up on the screen here, a 2-year daily chart, a little bit of a long-term view. The bars get kind of crunched in, and sometimes it's tough to see exactly where we're trading around some of these moving averages, for instance. Or if you're looking at an indicator like the MACD, maybe you want to look at specifically where the signal line is at, how it's moving. Any of those sort of zeroing in types of actions that you want to take, the zoom thumbnail is going to make that really, really easy for you. So you'll notice that since I just turned that on, what I get on the right side of my Sharp chart here is an extra view that sort of zooms in to the right side of the screen. So the last couple of bars, I get a zoomed in look at exactly where we are on this chart. So it takes that sort of right side of the screen and adds this little zoomed in view. Really helpful, again, for looking at moving average crossovers, for looking at specific indicator positioning, maybe how price is moving relative to specific moving averages. I mean, this is a great example. We can see that we've got sort of a bunched up trading action around the 50-day moving average. But when we turn on the zoom thumbnail, we get a lot more granularity in that view. We can really see how we've been trading around both the 20 and the 50-day moving average, really bouncing around there. We can see how the 20 is coming down towards that rising 50-day. You just get a lot more detail here in the right side of the screen for those last couple of trading sessions, the last 2 weeks or so. So the zoom thumbnail, another really powerful feature in SharpCharts here that I love to show people. Now, our final checkbox in the chart attributes section on the SharpCharts workbench is the new extended hours checkbox. So this is going to allow you to chart the pre and post market sessions for different stocks you're following. This is going to be available on intraday charts. So I'm going to turn this on, the new extended hours checkbox. I'm actually going to get rid of our extra bars here. I'm going to change this down to be a 5-day chart using that predefined range menu. And I'm going to change the period to be, let's do 5 minutes. Now, when I load that up, you can see that I've got these different highlighted sections for the extended hour sessions, the pre and post market trading sessions here for Etsy. So it's really easy to go ahead and turn that on your intraday charts. Again, you have to be on an intraday chart to see that after hours data, but a really easy way to see what's happening in those pre and post market sessions for stocks that you're following. All you got to do is make sure you got that extended hours checkbox turned on and make sure that you're on an intraday chart period, like a 5-minute, 10-minute, 1 minute, anything you want to see that's below a daily. So that gives you a pretty thorough overview of all of the settings that you have available to you in the chart attributes section of the SharpCharts workbench. Now we're going to jump over to ACP. We're going to do a very similar thing over in the new advanced charting platform. So actually, one trick that I want to show you down here at the bottom of the workbench, you've got a link right to ACP. So if you're on a Sharp chart for a specific symbol and you want to jump over to an advanced chart of that symbol, all you got to do actually is scroll right down and click ACP. It will automatically jump you over to ACP for whatever symbol you're looking at on the workbench. And that actually applies to all of these links. Symbol summary as well, sort of our high-level research tool. You can really quickly pull up the symbol summary tool for anything that you're looking at on the SharpCharts workbench, or a point and figure chart, a perf chart, candle glance, seasonality, any of those tools. You can really easily jump over there for anything that you're looking at on the SharpCharts workbench. In the case of today, let's jump over to ACP. And we'll pull up that same chart of Etsy here in ACP, our new advanced charting platform. So if you're not familiar with ACP, if this is new to you, you've got a very interactive, dynamic experience here. You can actually scroll through time. You can sort of zero in on specific bars. It's really a very fluid experience. You can move indicators up and down. There's a lot that you can do with ACP. A lot of interactivity. You can actually create multi-chart layouts. Plus, you get all these different views over here on the side. So for instance, our symbol summary, you have an actual panel here to pull up the symbol summary for any symbol that you're watching right within ACP. Lots and lots going on here. And it really is changing from week to week. Actually, last week, we rolled out a new StockCharts TV feature. So you can actually watch StockCharts TV right from within here in the platform. So much going on here in ACP. It is constantly changing, just a lot happening. But today what we're going to look at is the chart settings section for ACP. Just like SharpCharts, we have a ton of different sort of structural options that you can use to customize your charts, to really get things set up in exactly the way that you want them set up. So when you first launch ACP, in general, this left sidebar is going to be open, and we call that the chart settings panel. The chart settings panel, though, unlike SharpCharts where you kind of have everything in view all at once, in ACP, the chart settings panel actually has sort of different layers within it. So this is sort of the high level view. It gives you an overview of your indicators and everything that you have on your chart. It also allows you to add indicators here. You've got this searchable menu of all of the different indicators. You can actually favorite the indicators that are most important to you, the ones that you want to use most frequently. So I've got my list of favorite indicators up at the top there, but lots and lots to choose from. Plus, we have plugins. So actually, we've got a lot of our partners like Arthur Hill and Larry Williams. They've been adding their own indicators to ACP, and you can install those right into your version of the platform. So lots and lots to explore. By the way, if you're interested in those plugins, you can get to them over here with the little plugin icon and explore all the different plugins that are available. But for the sake of today, we're going to dig into this chart settings menu and specifically show you around, again, kind of those chart attributes or the high-level chart settings for your ACP charts. So you'll notice that for each of your indicators, you've got when you hover over them, you've got a little gears icon here. That's how you edit the specific indicators. You can click into any of those to edit those specific indicators. But we've mirrored that up at the top. So at the top of the chart settings panel, right next to the symbol and the company name or the symbol name, you've got another one of those little gears icons. So that's how you access sort of the total chart settings for the overall chart, not specific indicators, but for the chart as a whole, similar to what we were looking at in SharpCharts. The other way, though, that you can access this is by clicking on any of these legends. So if you want to edit any of your indicators, you can actually just click right on these legends. For instance, there's the accumulation distribution line. Here is the scooter line. You've got different options. So you just give those legends a click, and that's going to jump you right into those edit indicator or edit chart settings panels. In the case of the chart as a whole, you can always click on the main price label up here. So I'm going to click Etsy, and that's going to take me right over to sort of the main chart attributes or the main chart settings for this whole chart. Now, if I close that down just to show you the other way, you can also get to that with that little gears icon. So whether you click that gears icon for the main symbol, or you click the legend for the main chart, you can get to this sort of chart attributes menu. Now, a lot of this is going to be familiar because we just talked about it with SharpCharts. So again, you've got your different y-axis scale options, whether you want log or arithmetic. You've got some chart header options. So this is similar to what we had with the full quote. You've got the standard quote option, which is what we have on this chart here. You've also got a full quote option, which is going to open up, again, sort of that bigger panel, give you a little bit more data for any symbol that you're looking at. The cool interactive feature that we have here in ACP is you can also open the full quote with this little plus and minus. So when I give that a click, I can actually open and close the full quote in just sort of one click right from what we call the standard quote in ACP. If you want a slimmer view, though, you can always slim that right down and you get a sort of a slimmer chart header, takes up a little bit less space if you don't want that big, thick standard quote. So a couple different options for the top of your chart there. Again, we've got an extra bars option, two different ways to interact with this. You've got a slider here that you can drag. You've also got an input here. So if you want to type in a specific number of bars that you want added to the chart, for instance, you can do, let's say 20, and then hit enter, and that's going to add, again, those extra bars to the right side of your chart. You can also drag this up to add extra space to your chart. So a couple of different options there. I'm going to do 2 extra bars to make it kind of narrow, but a couple of different options there. Again, that's helpful for extending trend lines out into the future, things like that. Grid style, again, you've got your grid off, which I actually like to use in ACP, but you've also got a normal option, which is sort of the standard, and a more dense option there as well. So a couple different grid options here. Same thing, you've got your legends, minimal, off, default, and verbose. They do the exact same thing. So for instance, if I turn this to verbose, now you can see this price performance, price relative line that I have. Again, that's going to change to be Etsy and Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. I get sort of more of a full symbol name there in the legends. You also have the ability to move the date and time axis, whether you want that right at the bottom of the chart. So this is that blue bar there at the bottom of the screen, or you can position that right below the price panel. So you'll see that now that blue bar has jumped up and it's right below the price panel, kind of in the middle of my chart. So depending on which look you like and depending on where you want that sort of date bar, you can actually customize that in ACP. Personally, I like to keep it at the bottom of the chart, a little more out of the way, but still accessible. Now, we've got a whole bunch of other options, sort of like those checkboxes that we saw in SharpCharts. So again, you have an extended hours checkbox, going to do the same thing. If you're on an intraday chart here in ACP, you've got an extended hours checkbox you can turn on and get that extended hours data for the pre and post market sessions and actually chart that on your intraday charts. In ACP, though, one little difference is that when you turn on this extended hours checkbox, we also add the pre and post market quotes to your chart headers. So you'll see that at the top of this chart, I've got the standard quote header turned on, the standard chart header, and I get the post market quote in this case for Etsy because I've also turned on extended hours. So if you turn on extended hours here in ACP for a daily or a weekly or a monthly, anything above an intraday chart, you will also get those little pre and post market price quotes for any stocks that have after hours trading sessions. Now, you've got a hide left axis checkbox, which is important, especially for volume. So the thing that volume is going to do is actually add sort of its own y-axis on the left side of your screen. I have that turned off though, because I want a little bit more room for my price bars. If I turn it back on, you'll see that I get this bar on the right side of the left side of the screen, and that's got the axis, the y-axis for volume in it. So you can turn this on if you'd like. If you've got volume in there and you want to actually have sort of the volume y-axis visible on your charts, you can turn that on. Or if you want to save a little bit of space, you can hide that left y-axis, and then you'll sort of just see, the volume bars on their own with no scale to them. But in most cases, specifically, for me, I'm looking at sort of volume spikes like this, things that are above average. So I'm less concerned with the specific volume number and more with the volume kind of relative to its average. So I'm looking at the volume bars and how big they are, spikes, things like that. So I actually like to hide that left y-axis, again, save a little bit of space on the left side of my chart. Couple more options. Again, you've got price labels, does the same thing, adds those price labels up and down your chart at important points. You've got your y-axis labels, just like SharpCharts. You can turn those on or off, depending on what kind of view you like. And then one key difference that we have in ACP, something that doesn't exist in SharpCharts, is a fit overlays to screen option. So I've turned that off, which means that we're going to sort of size the price panel according to price itself. So you'll notice that here I've got the sort of the low price from this time period, and I've got the high price from this time period, and those are going to be the extremes. If I turn this on though, and then I actually scroll in to a more narrow period, now we can see the difference in kind of what this does. So in this case, I've got these long-term moving averages. I've got a 200-day and actually a 425-day, that purple dashed line, kind of hard to see on the left side, but I've got those two moving averages. And because I've selected fit overlays to screen, we're actually going to view those in the price panel. So we're going to take in those overlays. We're sort of going to take those into account in how we scale this chart. When I turn that off, you'll notice that it looks a little bit different. So in this case, you can see there's that 200-day moving average. We're sort of not accounting for it in how we're scaling the price panel of the chart now. That 425-day, Etsy has moved so high, so fast that the 425-day really doesn't even come into view in this sort of modified view. But depending on how you want your price panel to be scaled, you can either fit those overlays to the screen so that you can see everything for the entire duration of your chart, the entire range of your chart. Or if all you really care about is the price bars, the candlesticks, the bars, whatever you're looking at, you can turn fit overlays to screen off, and then that's going to basically scale things according to the price bars instead of taking those overlays into account. So a couple different options there, and that's one that actually doesn't really apply to SharpCharts. That's sort of an ACP specific chart setting. You've got all your different chart type settings down here as well. So candlestick settings in this case, but if I changed this to be a bar chart, now I've got some different settings for my bars. If I change this to be, for instance, an area chart, now I've got a whole different set of sections or a different set of settings for my area chart. I can choose, all these different visuals. So depending on what chart type you've selected up here at the top of ACP, this settings menu is actually going to change. And then finally, down at the bottom, we have an events option group for you. So if you want to turn on these different event markers for your chart, for anything that you're looking at, you can turn those on and you'll get markers on your chart for dividends, splits, and also predefined alerts if you're looking at anything that we've set up predefined alerts for. In this case, Etsy doesn't have a dividend and hasn't split recently, so nothing really happens. But if we look at something like Apple that's had a couple of different events for it, we can sort of see those markers on the chart. So a couple of different options for you there. And that's actually something that we're going to be continuing to refine over time. We're really excited to add even more event markers for different things like earnings reports, those kinds of different events coming up soon. So lots of different options to play with here. Really similar between SharpCharts and ACP, but there are some differences. So wanted to highlight those for you today. I want to thank you for joining me on a long episode. I know this has been a lot to take in, but hopefully this has really helped you see more of what you can do with the chart setting sections, both in SharpCharts and ACP. There is so much to play with in both of these different platforms. They both are continuing to evolve. We're bringing out more and more. For instance, the addition of our extended hours charting for the pre and post market sessions just came out a couple of weeks ago. So lots happening. Of course, this is the place to hear about it. StockCharts In Focus, our product focus show every Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. So join me every Friday. We'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening. Make sure that you're getting more value out of stock charts. Again, things like this that are really designed to show you all that's there. Dig into the tools and the features a little bit and make sure that you're aware of what everything does and how you can customize stock charts to really work best for you. That's our goal. If we're doing that every week here on StockCharts In Focus, then we're succeeding. So again, I want to thank you for joining me on today's episode. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts. And I will see you back here for another edition of StockCharts In Focus very soon. Until then, though, chart on, my friends.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.